Assalamualaikum and good morning. I am Tasim Lokman reporting for NST Online, and here today we have Youth Chief Branch of Kampung Gagu, Jelebu Negeri Sembilan, Danny Rais. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, and let's start with the first question. How is the youth grassroots support in Jelebu?
Right now, I must say Alhamdulillah, especially because we're having a run-up to the elections, which can be called at any time now. It seems that the support for the youth is ever increasing. Now, this is purely because of what we call the movement, the development or the pergerakan down in the grassroots. Now, it's very important because the youths, they require attention. We must continue to serve them, especially in terms of doing programs. And these are programs in which we have with the underlying theme of merapatkan silaturahim. So we must insist and continue to ensure that the relationship with the youths continue. The support is also increasing purely because we find new ways, especially in the grassroots, as to how we can support the youths more. In an ever-changing world, the world is developing much faster and at a rate never seen before. We must provide all assistance. And so at the end of the day, they will still come to UMNO, and UMNO will still be there, especially at the grassroots levels, to help them, especially in terms of entrepreneurship and whatnot.
Okay, all right. So what are the main issues raised by them actually in Jelebu, especially for the voters?
The main issues raised, not just by the people of Jelebu, but especially the youth.
Okay.
As I said, it's an ever-changing world, and it's become so challenging. So the issues that they raise are no different from the other issues raised all around the country. For example, rising standard of living. The cost of living is very high. Competition in terms of work and opportunities. However, we must accept that these are signs of a developing nation, and so they also accept that. However, with all these things that they raise, obviously we cannot leave them alone. We must also be there to provide them with the opportunities, or especially the assistance. And we must go down, all the way down to the micro level parts of it. For example, assisting them with knowledge, such as how do you do a business paper, a business plan, for them to actually go to an investor, to tell them that, look, this is a plan and idea that I like. But we also need to really connect with them. Now, everyone obviously wants things, but we must also allow them to work for it.
Yeah.
So the educational part of it, obviously in terms of cost of living and that rising, obviously we've got the GST and whatnot, but these are always issues which is very, very popular, especially being used by propaganda machines.
Of course.
So we must hit back with actual facts. We must show to them that, in fact, majority of the countries in this world are actually using GSTs, and the GST has only just been implemented. So we must convince them that we are on the right path.
Okay. All right, that's great. And talk to us more about the social mobility and changes that have experienced by Jelebu throughout the years.
Okay. Very, very interesting question there, Tasneem. Very interesting. Purely because social mobility, I think there's a lot more social mobility happening in the rural areas in comparison to the urban folks. Now, I say this purely because the kampung boys and girls, they have to move out to KL or to the cities in order to find jobs or to find opportunities. Now, I know some people will say this may be a bad thing, but actually it's a very good thing. The reason why they're going there is because there's an increase in opportunities. They are more confident in actually going down to the urban areas to find jobs, to compete with other people. But social mobility in terms of that is also very important, purely because at the end of the day, they will always come back to the humble abode, which is the kampung.
Yeah.
Now, this is something which perhaps not many people realize. But for example, me, I can only hold programs on the weekends because that's the time when they come back.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yes. So they only come back during the weekends. But that also means, and we cannot take this for granted, not one bit, is the fact that more than ever, we have got a youth population that is a lot more knowledgeable and a lot more intelligent than years that have gone by. Now, why do I say that? It's because they are mixing around with the rural folks, and then they go back to the kampung and they help their parents or their siblings or whatnot. So in terms of social mobility, we're seeing a huge development here, and it is something that we definitely cannot underestimate. And one thing I must share is one of the things which irks me beyond belief is when people in the rural areas say, oh, orang kampung dia fikir macam tu ke? They're not aliens.
Okay.
They are not aliens. In fact, they are sometimes far beyond in terms of their thinking than the urban folks. And so this divide has obviously become so small purely because social mobility, as you mentioned just now, has pretty much leveled the playing field.
That's like good news for the rural folks.
Oh, fantastic.
And the urban folks have to watch over their shoulder.
Oh, yes. I do believe so because, you know, at the end of the day, opportunities are hard to come by.
Yes.
And those who come from the rural areas, they will be very hungry, and they are hungry. It's just unfortunate because sometimes they have great ideas, you know, business opportunities, or they have intention to become entrepreneurs, but they just don't have the opportunities.
Okay, all right. And as part of the BN election machinery, how are you engaging with the people in Jelebu and maybe in the state itself? How are you moving and engaging with them?
All right. Now, obviously, there's no I in team.
Yes.
So you have to move as a group. And Alhamdulillah to say that the machinery, all the way from the Bahagian level down to the Wanita, Putri, and the Pemuda, we do work well. Communication is key. And another point I wish to raise is the fact that if the wheel isn't broken, there's no point in reinventing it. And the beauty about UMNO is the fact that this is a party that has served the people since 1946. And we have been in charge of Malaysia and been responsible for it to move forward purely because the importance of the country still goes all the way down to the people.
Yes.
So there is no need for us to reinvent the wheel or for us to do something completely different. But what's important is that the new generation, the younger generation, learns from the older generation as to how they've done things. A lot of people think that an election can be won purely through social media and whatnot. It is important, and we have to keep up with the times. But still, there's nothing quite like going down to the ground. Actual human interaction, talking to the people, makcik apa khabar, apa masalah. But you also have to have the patience.
Yes.
You know, you must move as a group. So you do things like that. The young have to be able to interact with the old, and the old must be able to understand the young. And so with the youth, obviously, we have to have programs. And actually, programs, they are so much fun to do. Especially the sporting activities and whatnot, because these are the opportunities when you really get to see various kampungs come out and support each other. And I think that is really the lifeline of this country. And if we do not take care of the people down there, then we're going to be losing out on a lot.
Do you think the opposition is shorthanded when it comes to this, going down to the ground? Do you see anybody from the opposition doing it?
Unless they're wearing an UMNO shirt in disguise, no. Truth be told. And in terms of their pergerakan, I think that, to be honest, Tasnim, I think they are so fixated on tarnishing the current government through social media means and by going around and talking bad, that they have forgotten that most vital point, that, you know, you must be there with the people. So there really is no point in you know, telling terrible things about what the current government's doing and whatnot, when in actual fact, even your own banjir problems, you haven't fixed it.
Yes.
And then suddenly that's when you're crying for help. Sorry, but these are the things that we need to really look at. So yes, there are the issues, but then any issue can be politicized.
Yes.
But are they really doing it for the best interest of the people? Or are they doing it purely for their own sake? And right now, it's very clear that they're doing it for their own sake.
Yeah. I wouldn't say anything to that. It's all your words.
No, that's okay. Maybe I should interview you.
Okay, so last question. What are your aspirations as we draw nearer to the elections?
I'd love to see this machinery continue. It must have the snowball effect. Therefore, meaning after this perhimpunan.
Yes.
We must not lose the traction that we have gained. I think, and I've been hearing the speeches from all the leaders earlier, and they are all very promising. They're indeed very promising. However, an aspiration for me as being a young person, I'm very glad that I was actually in the hall listening to YBKJ's speech earlier, in that for him, he did highlight the importance of watching out for the next generation. Now, I do think that this is something very, very serious for UMNO to look at, because this is the time when we need to show that we are the future. And YBKJ did mention that. How do we show that we are the future? We must be brave, especially in bringing up the youth, for their faces to actually come out, so that the nation itself can say, okay, so these are the young guns.
Yes,
you know?
and you are one of the young guns that will be coming out soon.
No, I'm just going to do my work.
Okay.
You know, that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, it's very simple. If you do your job well, people are going to like you, and then from there you see how.
Recognize and acknowledge you.
Yes, yes. So there's no point in us actually wanting to, I want to be that big gun or whatnot, I want to climb through the ranks. No, because you're going to lose sight of what's important.
Right.
What's important is we all play a role. We're like in an ant world. You know, we all have a role to play, and we all have a responsibility to this nation. So aspirations, yes, we have to start thinking about the future.
Okay.
We must understand how UMNO is going to evolve, and we need to convince people that we do have the manpower, the ideas, and the thought process to ensure that we move on and we are the future of this country. Purely because at the end of the day, we will still be in the driving position, inshallah.
Inshallah, to that. All right, so thank you so much, Danny, for being with us today. And there you have it, Youth Chief Branch of Kampung Gagu, Jelebu, Negeri Sembilan. That was inspiring and wonderful. So thank you for watching.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Assalamualaikum.